I've always felt torn between my dad, who was a professional, and my mom, who was a dreamer. When I was a kid, I'd go up to my dad and I'd tell him an idea I'd had, and he'd say, "I like the idea, what's the budget?" If I told my mom, she'd go, "What's a budget? I like the idea." I always grew up, no matter what parent I was with, I always felt the sense that I could do anything. Both parents created an environment for me where I believed in myself. I believed in myself so much that at 5 years old, I was wearing a leather jacket and sunglasses in an airport, and I had so much swag that a flight attendant asked for my autograph. The beautiful part about that was I was just being myself. I wasn't trying to please my mom. I wasn't trying to please my dad. I lost my dad in a cold February day. I don't remember which day it was, but he passed away suddenly. And not long after that, my belief took me to Hollywood. And within a few months, I was co-producing comedy shows. I was taking meetings with TV pilots I had written. But COVID came and it kind of squashed everything. I wasn't getting any more meetings, couldn't do any more shows, and I was starting to forget about that little kid in the leather jacket. And more pressingly, I was starting to think, what would my professional father think? But then one day I get a call. I get the call all artists want. I get a call from a producer that they're putting together an urban show, and they think that came across one of my scripts, and they thought it would be perfect to staff in their writer's room. And automatically, the dreamer in me is going crazy. I'm thinking about all the things I'm going to buy. I'm like, I'm going to help my mom out. I'm going to buy these new Nike shoes. I'm going to eat at Whole Foods every day. It's going to be great. But it's a Saturday, and I'm on the Zoom call, and I meet the showrunner, and it's this bald white man. And I'm like, a bald white man running a black show. And he's like, "I'm an ally. This is gonna be completely okay." And I'm like, okay. And I'm listening. He goes, "Hey, we think you're funny. We think you're smart. You more than have enough of the verve of what it would take to be in this writer's room. But our room is already picked. So we think that you would be perfect to support the room and as an assistant." And the dreamer in me is going, "Hell no, absolutely not." But I remember my dad always told me the difference between a professional and an amateur is that they get paid. So I'm like, you know what? I accept. And Don goes, hold up, hold your horses. Your resume says storyteller. Why do you tell stories? And I said, well, I believe that, stories, if a well-told story can help make the world a better place. And I'm thinking Don is going to be like, yeah, I'm right there with you. A professional in Hollywood, a former comedian, and now a current industry professional. And Don looks at me and goes, good luck with that. So I start the job, and if you don't know what a writer's assistant does, most of the time a writer's assistant is expected to turn every argument, suggestion, comment in an 8-hour window that all these writers have and reflect them as cards that eventually become episodes of a TV show. So it's my first time doing this. It's during COVID, so it's all virtual. It's in a Zoom room. And I'm doing well, but I'm also very bored. And I have to be honest with you. There were just, as a young black dude, it was very strange to watch a group of white people argue about what Bernie Mac would do or Tiger Woods would do in the situation. So I get used to it. I'm starting to get good at my job. I start multitasking. And for the first time, I'm 15 minutes late. I'm thinking, like, nobody's really going to notice, but I get a call from Don at the end of the week. And I should probably also mention, most people are late because they overslept, or because, I don't know, they had a late night. I was late because I was trying to get in hot boy summer shape. I was trying to get the perfect six-pack, and I was at the gym because I'm a dreamer, y'all. So I'm on the phone with Don, and Don goes, Jet, you haven't been at work for 2 weeks. And my heart sinks because I'm like, he's seen all the work I've done. I mean, he can talk to the writers. And I go, Don, I said, I definitely was 15 minutes late, and I'm incredibly sorry, but you can check in with anybody. I've been on the job. And it's silence on the phone. And in the silence, I remember my dad told me this story when I hit 13. He said, Jet, you're 13 now, and we need to start having some real conversations. He goes, you can't be like the rest of your white friends. You have to be 10 times better because you're as a black man in a white environment, you have to be 10 times better because they're looking for a reason to let you go. And that really crushed me. And I was like, man, I hope that's not true, but it seems like it's true. But I was 15 minutes late. All I know is that my resume says storyteller, not quitter. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be the best assistant ever. And so I get back into the room. And the weird thing is, the better I got at my job, the more vindictive Don got. At one point, we were in the room, and Don goes, you know, this villain antagonizing this hero is sort of like a writer's assistant that thinks he's smarter than the showrunner. Little dick energy is real, y'all. So it's been a second. I haven't performed since pre-COVID, and a comedy club opens back up. And at this point, I had really lost my inner child. I'd really lost that inner dreamer, the kid with the leather jacket and sunglasses. And I'm like, you know what? This is after hours. This is, outside of the hours of the show, the TV show. I want to do this comedy show for me. And Don finds out. And Don conveniently decides to give me an assignment that could take all night. On one hand, I'm a professional. But on the other hand, I'm a dreamer, and I hate Don. So I went to the club and did 10 minutes on Don, and I killed. Next morning, I'm on time. I'm on my job. And something strange happens. Don goes, hey, everybody, make sure your cameras are on except for Jet. I remember thinking, that's a really strange thing. And then one of the writers starts pitching an idea for a young black male character. And Don goes, well, why would we ever want to include a character like that? I mean, there's no one in the room that could contribute any type of insight. And I'm like, the dreamer in me is like, this isn't worth $600 a week for it. This is a waste of my time. But I remembered I'm a professional. I ended up catching COVID. And I remember I was struggling to breathe. I had extreme light sensitivity. Millions of people all around the world were dying. And so I emailed Don, hey, I got COVID. I just remember saying, I'm sorry. And the reply I got back was, just because you have COVID doesn't mean you can't support this room. And I remember thinking, to a professional, what's the cost of a human life? COVID stole my sense of smell, but I felt like this job had stolen my sense of self. And so I quit. A friend of mine who's a big producer called me, and he goes, Jet, I'm really worried that you did this because you're really hardworking, you're really talented, but I know your goal is to change the world with storytelling, but how can the world know who you are if the industry doesn't know who you are? This was a difficult story for me to tell. Every time I thought about it, I would get angry because I thought about how I felt like this job had paid me to forget my dreams. I was scared to tell this story because I thought, what if Don finds out and blacklists me? No pun intended. So I actually Googled Don at the beginning of this week, and I found out Don no longer works for the show. I have a survival job, and at the survival job, all I try to do is make a safe environment for kids so that they can be themselves. I'm not thinking about pleasing my mom. I'm not thinking about pleasing my dad. And coincidentally, someone took out their phone and taped me, and a week later, I found out that video got 16 million hits on TikTok. And the 16 million hits, those are cool. But what's more cool to me is that in a world that asks you to give up your true self in order to gain exposure, or give up your dreams in order for you to be accepted, this TikTok tells kids that you're enough, that you can be yourself, and that's all you have to be. And to me, that's the ultimate dream job.